Is anybody?
Mine is thinking.
Yeah, there we go.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see all of you. We are here from DivorceTown USA, and we're very proud to present this webinar today. And I'm going to go ahead and get us started off with Lisa. And Lisa, do you have a record button?
Let's see. It says we're on air.
Perfect.
I think we're recording. Welcome, everyone. And I'm Lisa Decker, and I am a certified divorce financial analyst and the founder of Divorce Money Matters and DivorceTownUSA.com. And I'm so glad you're here today because we have a wonderful webinar scheduled today. This is International Child-Centered Divorce Month, and we have some experts that are going to give you lots of tips to help you with your children as you go through divorce and make things easier on everyone. So first up, as we talk about the challenges and rewards, I want to introduce a very dear friend and colleague, Rosalind Sadaka. She is the founder of the Child-Centered Divorce Network, an international network. She is also a divorce and co-parenting coach and author of numerous books, e-courses, and programs on divorcing children and co-parenting successfully. And she is the host of Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living radio show and podcast. So Rosalind, always a pleasure. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Excuse me. It's a pleasure to be here. Especially so a pleasure because it's International Child-Centered Divorce Month, and we have a lot to talk about today. I just lost my notes that were coming up, so I'm going to be searching for it while I'm talking. I want everyone to note that Child-Centered Divorce Month is available for anyone, and that's at DivorcedParentsSupport.com. So you could find that information, and I found my notes and we're ready to go.
Great.
So the question is, what is a child-centered divorce? And a child-centered divorce is one that acknowledges that your children are innocent and should never pay the price as pawns in your divorce. So both parents make choices in the best interest of their children. And I know we all pay lip service to that, but in the trenches, when you're contemplating divorce, when you're going through divorce, when you have clients who are divorcing, it's really important for them to understand that there's a difference between divorcing with children and having a child-centered divorce. In a child-centered divorce, both parents agree to move past their emotional drama and trauma, the anger, the resentment, the frustration, the hatred of their soon-to-be ex, all of that, and move into a different state of mind where both parents are focused on their child's self-esteem, their child's sense of security, and their ability to trust adults in their life. So your children are watching and learning from you when you're going through this divorce, and their ability to trust you and other adults in making conscious, wise, mature, responsible decisions is really at play here. And you need to be mindful of those decisions you're making because they're impacting not only your divorce and not only your future, but the future of those children, whatever age they are from then on. Life is going to change in their lives. So both parents need to keep the children out of their parental conflict and their tug of war. And that's really crucial because all studies have shown that it's conflict that does the most damage to children in divorces as well as in intact marriages. It's being exposed to parental conflict that creates the most harm. So you want to avoid doing certain things. And I know most of you are aware of this, but I'm going to list them because it's so important to bring out as focus on child-centered divorce. And that is, you never ask your children to keep or share secrets. So you want to never use them as confidants, telling them secrets that they should not share with their other parent or with other siblings or with other people in the family. It's not something that's fair to the children. We never do that. We never relay messages between have your children relay messages between parents as messengers. It's so easy to say to your child, whether the child is 9 or 18, and say, tell mom or dad I have to change in my schedule and pick me up at 2 hours later than we planned. But it isn't their place to do that. And sometimes it's confusing for kids. Sometimes it's too much of a responsibility. Sometimes they forget. Sometimes they're playing games and they don't want to relay the message accurately. So it's much better to use the online scheduling tools that we're all familiar with, or send a text, use email, use technology, talk together, but never use your children as messengers. Never let your children make divorce or co-parenting decisions, because it isn't their place to be doing that. And you never want your kids to feel the responsibility of having to keep the peace in the family. Sometimes they have to step up and they try to fix things, and they can't. It's hard enough for adults to do that. So don't put that responsibility on their shoulders. And also, we want to make sure that your children are never in a place where they're parenting their parents, where they're stepping up to be the little adult in the family. Now that mom or dad isn't here, I'm going to take care of that. I'm going to be responsible for that. Let me do that. If it's age appropriate, of course, there are chores and responsibilities, but we don't want them looking at you feeling bad that you're grieving or sad or hurt or angry, and then trying to help you and fix you. That's the place for therapists, for coaches, for support groups, for all the experts who are skilled in dealing with those things. We don't want to create experiences where our children are stuck in the middle of any of those types of endeavors, because it just isn't fair to them, and it robs them of their childhood innocence. So a child-centered divorce is also about both parents reminding their children of 6 key messages that I like to talk about with clients. And the first is, this is not your fault. Children have a tendency to blame themselves about divorce. So the more often you can mention something along those lines, tell them that they're innocent, that they're not to blame. Even if you're fighting about the children, it's never their fault. And so you could never say it too often in different endeavors. When you think they're feeling a sense of responsibility for the divorce, remind them that it's never their fault. And you want to also remind them that they are and always will be safe. Divorce robs children of their sense of security and stability in the world. That's one of the deepest wounds that happens to children. And so you want to make sure that they feel secure and safe and know that they're being taken care of by their parents. You also want to tell them that both parents will always be their parents, that despite the divorce, that doesn't mean that they've lost either parent, that no one is replacing that other parent. And in most cases, we hope that's the situation, because it makes the divorce much easier for children to get through, knowing that they still have their parents. And of course, you want to tell them that both parents will always love you, always. The divorce does not change that. And they need to hear that as much as possible, because their minds go into places where there's doubts and fears and insecurities. So security is one of the primary factors in handling divorce well. And you want to tell your children that they will always be loved and nothing is going to change between you and them in that regard. You also want to talk about the fact that divorce is about change and not about blame. So it's never the place of parents to point the finger and say, this wouldn't be happening if your dad wasn't an alcoholic, if your mother didn't have an affair, and get into those gritty areas with your children, even your teens. It's not their place to be privy to adult information because they can't really comprehend it. It's hard enough for us to comprehend, as you well know. So you want to talk about divorce as a change in the form of the family. Now that we're going to be living in 2 different houses, but we're still your parents, we'll still always love you. And change is a natural part of life. The seasons change, hairstyles change, our grades in schools change, the sports we play change. So this is a change in the way our family is living, but it doesn't mean we're still not a family in the most important ways. And that's very comforting for children to understand that, to know that, and to realize that everything in life isn't being torn apart. And the last message you want to share with them is that things will work out okay. You want them to believe and know that both of their parents are making mature, responsible decisions on their behalf to make things better and better over the weeks, the months, and the years ahead. And then, of course, we have to step up as parents and do that, make mature, responsible decisions that are not going to be getting in the children's way, but that will be benefiting our children right now and in the future. So with this foundation that's fostered as early on as possible with the children, both parents are much more likely to make wiser decisions during and after the divorce. And that's what all of the professionals are looking for, to get parents together as much as possible on the same page as early on as possible before they even break the divorce news to the kids, and then work with the parents right on through the divorce and get them prepared for a positive co-parenting experience ahead. Because as we all know, divorce is only one piece of the puzzle, but there's years of co-parenting ahead, regardless of how old your children are. And you want to get your parents in the best mindset and the best place to be as cooperative as possible.
It's me, Rosalind. Just sending you your reminder.
Okay, thank you. So you want to choose mediation, collaboration, amicable divorce, and other cooperative divorce modalities, and family law practitioners that are child-centered. And I have a child-centered divorce directory that I'm happy to add any of you who are listening to that, because I know you're people who care about this. Choosing cooperative, flexible co-parenting plans and arrangements is the direction to move them in. And also choosing to include grandparents and other extended family on both sides of the child's life in keeping them in the picture. And choosing to focus on the kids and family when answering questions. So some of the most important questions are, do I love my kids more than I may dislike my ex? If your clients are answering that question in the right way, then they're getting started in a much more positive realm. And you also want to ask the question, would I be making the same parenting decision if we were still married? So sometimes it's good for parents to stop before they make decisions and think about the decision they're making and making sure that they're in alignment with their beliefs and that they're not just trying to hurt the other parent. And also ask, am I robbing my kids of their childhood because of this divorce? And what can I do to show our love, our compassion for our kids, and move through the challenges that they never asked for or created? And how can we do the best divorce possible for their sake? And what are they going to say about how we handle the divorce when they're grown adults? If we get parents to think along those lines, then we're setting them up in the right way for a child-centered divorce. So thank you very much, and I'll be available to answer questions. The International Child-Centered Divorce Month, again through January, is DivorcedParentSupport.com. And my website is childcentereddivorce.com.
Rosalind, thank you so much. Always such great information. And please, to our listeners, avail yourself to the wonderful resources that Rosalind has put together. You'll also find some resources from me, and I hope that you'll enjoy those as well. All right, next up we have, and Marcella, I'll let you run the technical part here. Sharon Rhea, another friend and colleague that I've known for quite some time, and she has more than 30 years experience in the fields of communication, education, childcare, government, and nonprofit. She is the owner of the Whole Family Coaching, providing solutions for families co-parenting after divorce, raising teens grandparents raising grandchildren, and every caregiver focused on raising responsible, self-confident, and happy children. Sharon is also the founder of the global movement No Judgment, Just Love, encouraging us all to move beyond judgments that divide, to consciously lead with love in your thoughts, words, and actions. I love that. This will genuinely help us relate to each other better. And Sharon, it's my great pleasure to have you here today. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's a pleasure to see you and Marcella and Rosalind and meet the new person that I don't know yet, which I can't wait to hear her.
Tracy.
Tracy, thank you, Tracy.
I'm going to mute myself here. You've got the floor.
Thank you so much. I just want to underscore everything that Rosalind said. I am a family relationship and communication coach, and I've been practicing for about 10 years, working with hundreds of families that are moving through divorce. And Rosalind was one of my places where I went when I was going through my divorce. So whoever is on this webinar, I am you. I have been through this. Rosalind helped a lot. My focus today with you is going to be in a support of all the wonderful tips that she gave, which is how do you communicate? So I'm going to share my screen very quickly. I have a short presentation to guide us and just give you some visuals as I talk a little bit about what I'd like to offer you as my experience to really communicate with that other parent. So starting, here we are. Hey, I did it. So I'm going to talk about 3 things today as you improve your co-parenting communication. The first thing is you are, each of us, in complete control of ourselves, not anybody else. And so your communication should start from, I know that I have the ability to deliver my messages in a way that does harm or a way that is helpful, not only to myself and my child's other parent, but especially because your children are watching. They are learning how to communicate the way you communicate with their other parent. The second thing is that there were 2 people in this relationship. And sometimes I think we forget as we communicate, as Rosalind did say, not to blame the other person. Some of the responsibility has to be on you, because you were in this relationship. So with the movement of No Judgment, Just Love, I invite you to spend just a little time considering where you might be able to shift and change how you communicate with your child's other parent. So here are the 3 tips I want to offer for you today. Number 1 is take inventory of the past, not for intimidation, but just for information. The second thing is understand emotional triggers, because when we communicate, we often communicate from our pain rather than from our joy. And then the third is the platinum rule of communication. I think we all remember the golden rule of behavior, but I want to introduce this concept. So let's get started. Taking inventory from the past means that you look at your past relationship when you were married with that other person, as well as all the children in the family, for information. Now, some of the things that cause us stress is when we go back to the past and think about, what we coulda, shoulda, woulda done. But we can't really change the past. However, we can change how we saw and feel about the past. And that's where I invite you to, rather than bringing those hurtful things from the past into your current communication, think of one thing that you can be grateful for from that past interaction with your child's other parent. And then think of one thing that you can say, I don't want to repeat that in our current time or in the future. And that one thing should hopefully include your communication as well as your spouse's ex-spouse that did not go well. So take inventory from the past for information, not intimidation. The next one is understanding emotional triggers. Now, an emotional trigger is something that has happened in your past that you react to when you hear it now with either anger or avoidance. I'm not going to really pay attention to that, even though it hurts, or maybe some fear. And so one of the things that I just want to share with you from my former husband that triggered me often was he would say, well, everybody knows that. And I would hear, well, I'm part of everybody. What are you saying? So I had to spend time, and that's number 2 that I'm offering to you on this list. I had to pause what my automatic reaction was, which was to get angry that he was judging me as I was less than everybody else. And then for number 3, I explored why this triggered me. And my exploration was very honest. I didn't judge myself. I was just honest that, oh, you know what? Maybe I sometimes think people know more than I do. That's not true. So he's just, by saying everybody knows that, he's just touching that pain point in me. So the 4th step for recovering from those times when you are triggered is to choose a different response. Take a breath and pause before you automatically react. Now, the platinum rule of communication is so cool. I was married for 21 years to my former husband, who is a lawyer, and I'm not. And so his way of communicating was very exacting. You have to say the right word. And my way of communicating is more from my history as an actress and a creator, which is more flowery, more descriptive. So the platinum rule for communication recognizes that everybody speaks a different communicative language. And often men and women talk about what's important to them in different ways. So it's not only what you say that's important and how you say it and what healthy boundaries you have, but it's also what the other person hears. So my example for this is when I'm talking about a mouse and I'm explaining very logically that a mouse sits next to your computer and I'm viewing the other person running around the room like they're crazy and scared, I have to recognize that a mouse for me is something electronic, but what they hear is the little squeaky, squeaky mouse that's running along the floor. So knowing the platinum rule of communication means that a person's way of communicating isn't wrong, it's just different. So a quick example of that is if someone were to ask my former husband and me the same basic question, what's the weather? Very simple, right? He would need to hear 74 degrees. Because he wants to know the exact information. I would like you to explain it to me in, well, it used to be 105 because I live in Arizona, and now it's 79. And so you don't have to, you can bundle up a little bit because it's not as hot as it was. So the difference is he wants exact information and I want a little more descriptive information. So recognizing that in your communication with your former spouse helps you align with healthy boundaries so that you can communicate exactly what you want to say, as well as awareness that someone else, that other person, that other parent, which, by the way, both of you are forever parents to your children, will hear something different. And so in your communication beginning to change and recognize that however you communicated before, which caused stress and anger and frustration, the first question to ask is, am I willing to change? Very important, because if you are willing, now you're motivated to learn something new. And then the second question to ask yourself is, what do I choose different that I now have some awareness about so that I can communicate in a more healthy way? And my final point is in improving the communication. Remember, you are the model for your children about how to communicate with their other parent. And when you are respectful and kind, and you learn how to listen to them differently, and you speak your mind with clarity and compassion, that you are in complete control of. And guess what? It takes some practice, practice, practice. Thank you.
Sharon, that was wonderful. Thank you so much. And, you know, it seems to me that those are good ideas for society in general right now. So, you know, wonderful communication tips overall, and we appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
Okay. And next up, Tracy, I'm so glad that you're back with us. Tracy McConaughey had a little bit of technical issues, but it looks like we're all straightened out now. Tracy, you with me?
Yes, I'm here. Can you see me? Okay.
Okay. Tracy is another friend and colleague. I've known her and her husband for many, many years. We work together very closely with clients, and you are also in for a treat with the information that Tracy is going to provide. She is a licensed clinical social worker and registered play therapist. She and her husband, Andrew, own McConaughey Counseling in Alpharetta, Georgia. Tracy specializes in child and teen mental health and in divorce. Together, Tracy and her husband, Andrew, developed a process to help couples through divorce called the Upside Down Divorce. And this process uses collaboration and problem solving rather than fighting in legal battles to put children first and create effective co-parenting relationships. And Tracy, it's a pleasure to have you here. And I'm going to turn the floor over to you now.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm really always happy to be a part of anything Lisa does, and DivorceTown events are so valuable, and I'm happy that I made it on after my technical problems. So I have the chance to share with you some thoughts about protecting children's mental health and providing them emotional support during a divorce process. And that's what we're going to do. So I think I'd like to start with just some things that children need the most when they're going through divorce. And I always try to encourage my clients that although divorce is painful and it is a time of grieving for parents and children alike, so I don't want to pretend it's no big deal. Of course it is. But it does not have to be scarring. Some of our fears about long-lasting, forever damage to children are really unfounded. What does cause damage long-term to children is toxicity between their parents that they get caught in the middle of, and that can happen whether you're married or divorced. So if you keep in mind that there are really healthy, profound ways to protect your family's well-being and its health and your children, then I hope that will be encouraging for everyone listening today. So the things that children need, one thing they need is ample time with both parents. And I hope that you listened closely to what Sharon said, because I will say do everything that she said is a key part of protecting children during divorce. They not only need a real relationship and ample time with both parents, they need to know that you welcome and value that relationship that they have with their other parent. Attachment, emotional attachment, is the foundation for emotional and mental health and success throughout life. And we get that to begin with, hopefully, from our parents. And so once that's established, if that becomes disrupted, it creates just tremendous problems for children. So anything you can do to support and value and let your child know you support and value their relationship with their other parent, that can be a tall order if you're particularly wounded or hurt or resentful and having these challenges, but it is important to fiercely protect it. You can do that by saying, I know you'll have a wonderful time, or Dad was always great at that, or Mom is the best at that. Yes, they sent me a picture of what you were up to, and really supporting that relationship. And the best way also to do that is just to be fierce in protecting them from your conflict and from the resentment that you might be feeling. That not only includes avoiding direct conversations about what the other parent's done wrong or how they've hurt you, avoiding them being right in front of direct conflict you might be having with a spouse or an ex. It's just as important to guard those subtle ways that we sometimes affect children with conflict. Things like a heavy sigh when your ex's phone number pops up on your phone, or an eye roll when a comment is made, or even subtle comments like, well, we don't have money for that like Dad does, or you'll have to ask her, she's the one who wanted to do it this way. Telling them to remind the other parent not to forget to help you study this time for your math test. Even those things that seem more innocuous just lay this burden on children that makes divorce very painful and harmful for them. So I encourage you to really have that in mind, do the best you can to take a very hard line about protecting children and saying nothing or saying something positive. In addition, as far as protecting and supporting mental health, I want to encourage you to allow whatever feelings children are having, especially at the beginning when they're processing what a divorce is and how to adjust to it. Sometimes we think we're going to help children by sugarcoating things or by trying to talk them out of their painful feelings. And that comes from a good place of love, because we all instinctively want to protect our children and we want them to feel better. So we might find ourselves saying things like, no, it won't be that bad. You'll get to have 2 holidays. Or don't be silly. You had a great time last time. It'll be fun this time too. Or reminding them of all the positive things. And as much as that's meant to help, it doesn't actually help children move through painful life experiences such as divorce. So they need us to allow those feelings. And the best 2 things you can do with frankly, this is the most important thing I think for all human relationships, but is to empathize with feelings and validate them. And empathy means acknowledging what the feeling is, getting in touch yourself with what it feels like, and staying present for it without trying to brush it away. So it can be painful to be empathetic because it's hard to sit with someone we love when they're suffering or hurting. But showing empathy, and empathy statements look like, it sounds like you feel blank. I can see you're very sad. I can see you're so mad. You're having a lot of worries about that. Those are very hard feelings. I think I understand what you're saying. Just being present and allowing those feelings to be true. And it might feel, at the moment, you might feel fearful if you pay attention to difficult feelings like that, that you're actually making them worse, but it's just the opposite. From a mental health perspective, being present and allowing those feelings to be there is the step of moving through them and getting to a more recovered place on the other side. And coupled with empathy, I think, is validation. And if the kind of core sentence of empathy is, it sounds like you feel blank, the core sentence of validation is, that makes sense to me because blank. So that means not just knowing how someone feels, instead of then telling them why they don't need to feel that way, it's saying, it makes sense to me that you'd be worried because this is a big change. It makes sense to me that you'd be angry because you didn't want this to happen. That makes people really feel heard and others understood, and has a very calming effect and is very powerful for children. And just finally, I would say, in addition to that, just focusing on what is the same during the time that can feel a little bit like an upheaval of divorce. That what's the same is that you love them and that their other parent loves them. That what you and their other parent agree on is that you want the very best for them. You're going to do everything you can to assure that happens. That what's the same is time with friends and family, and your now some traditions change. I was going to say your traditions are the same, but they might take a new shape as schedules change and as divorce changes the rhythm of family life, but that those traditions are present, that the routines and rituals of daily life are present, and staying consistent gives a lot of stability and security. And finally, I would say, just when it comes to wondering if a play therapist or a counselor who focuses on children of your own children's ages can help, well, it certainly can't hurt, but especially if you're finding that your child just is not making a successful adjustment to transitions. They're not able to really enjoy and settle into steady home family time with both of their parents. If their emotional distress seems to be prolonged, and they're crying themselves to sleep, or can't enjoy time with friends, can't focus and learn and grow in school the same way, then having play therapy or another version of therapy, if they're teenagers, I think can be very, very soothing and very helpful to help them get through that kind of life transition. So I think that's all that I have to say for my portion today.
That is fantastic information, Tracy. Thank you so much. I think this has just been an incredible amount of great information from the child-centered divorce to the communication skills and when and where to find help with play therapy or any kind of counseling, and not just for your children but for yourself. So thank you all. We'd like to open up the floor now for questions, and I'm going to pose the first one. How can folks reach each of you? If you would, go ahead and bring yourselves back up on the screen and give your information. And do you do virtual sessions? So if people are in different parts of the country, can you work with them, or is it just within your state so that people know if they want to reach out, who they can work with here? And so Rosalind, since you spoke first, I'll ask you to go first.
Yes, so you can find me at childcentereddivorce.com, and I do one-on-one coaching, and I have several e-courses and e-programs. In addition, for people who don't want personal coaching but want to get help in making the transition before, during, or after divorce. So it's all at childcentereddivorce.com. And I have a new program just launched, Anger Management for Co-Parents, which is an 8-hour program on helping people who know they have anger issues or their spouse has anger issues and they want to handle that and get that out of the way to keep from interfering in the divorce.
Terrific. I have one of your resources that I love is How Do I Tell the Children, a book where for young children, you want to tell us just a quick blurb about that, because I think that's so valuable.
Thank you. How Do I Tell the Kids About the Divorce is my signature book, and we create a storybook with personal family photos and a text that is customized with age-appropriate templates, but I write most of the text, and it's used as the actual script during the difficult break the news conversation, so parents don't have to hem and haw, and they don't miss any of the key essential points, and the children can reread that storybook over again and again in the next weeks or months after the conversation. So it keeps everyone in alignment with the message that's going to be positive for everyone in the family.
Excellent. We'll be listing some of these resources on DivorceTown USA as well in the marketplace, but until then, we're also putting those websites here. Sharon, you're up next. How can folks get a hold of you? Where do you serve clients? Do you work virtually anywhere or just within your state? Give us some information, please.
Thank you. I live in Arizona, so anyone here in Arizona, once we have the pandemic under control, we can meet in person. But I am virtual globally, and I work through a private Zoom link or on the telephone, whichever clients are comfortable with. My website is thewholefamilycoaching, just like behind me, .com, and you can reach me there at sharon@thewholefamilycoaching.com. I have programs, but not as prolific as Rosalind. I like to work a lot with collaborative efforts in school districts. I've delivered a lot of programs for co-parenting parents, as well as parents who have been court-ordered to have parenting classes. Mm-hmm. So partnering with the schools, school districts, I'm able to reach a larger audience, as well as provide certificates of completion, because not only are the programs tailored generally, but if a parent has a specific need to abate some of the behaviors so that they can be reunited with their children, I work privately with them and create a program just specifically for them. Mm-hmm. Everything is under the foundation of no judgment, just love. So creating a very calm and safe space for people to unleash their anger and the safety with me, so that when they go back to their families, they're calmer and ready to communicate. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent work. All right. And then Tracy.
Thank you.
I know you're here in Alpharetta, Georgia. So tell us about how folks get a hold of you.
Our practice is in Alpharetta, Georgia. We have several other therapists that work with us. My husband is a couples counselor, and includes divorcing and divorced couples, as well as folks who are in relationship with each other. And I focus on play therapy and teen therapy and family work, and also do work with adults and So yes, as far as psychotherapy goes, we provide that to clients who are in Georgia. That's where our license is. But with our Upside Down Divorce program, that can happen with clients anywhere in the whole world and in the country, where we help them create really effective parenting plans that you need to have in a divorce, that's very thorough and focused on creating a new relationship and creating patterns and practices and policies for your family that are really going to work and aren't just fought over. But we think divorce should be in this mental health arena because it is so emotional and so disruptive. Mm-hmm. So we create parenting plans and then pass you off to my financial person, Lisa Decker being our favorite, and then to attorneys just to sign off at the end. So it's not legal focused, but mental health focused. And it is a joy to have developed that after watching the painful side effects of divorce through all of our clients over the years. So we're having a great time offering this new program. And yes, we are working virtually almost exclusively. I am seeing children in my office and those who can't benefit from virtual sessions, with lots of fans and open windows and air purifiers and my special clear mask, and looking forward to the day when I can really get up close to people again. So hopefully that's around the corner too. Right. But for now, we're making it work with virtual.
Awesome. Well, I have to say, it's been a wonderful ride for clients over the years that we've been working together in this process that we brainstormed together one day at your office, just having a conversation, and realized we're all kind of doing things upside down here, aren't we? You guys start things off and then coming to see the financial experts after you've gotten the parenting plans in place literally takes the children out of the equation so they can't be used as pawns. It's very effective. And then working through the financials and then going from there to have the paperwork processed by your attorney. It's just another avenue for people to explore when they're going through divorce. There, used to be that we heard of divorce, we thought of litigation, put your gloves on and let's duke it out. And in some cases, it's still going to be like that. But there are so many opportunities for folks who know better, and really knowing your options up front is critical to getting the best divorce possible. There's never going to be a good divorce, but the best divorce that you can in light of the situation. And that means knowing your options and going for the one that is best for you and your family, your finances, and your future. And these ladies here have all offered some great information on how to incorporate the children in this process that they never wanted to be a part of. They are the innocent victims, and we want to help you prevent them from becoming victims, right? So we want them to be just a part of a life transition, a change of which there is so much in life. And we're all doing our small part in the world, and we're glad that you are here today learning about these things, and that we hope you will share, pass this word on, avail yourself to all the wonderful resources here and at DivorceTownUSA.com, because all of these ladies are members of our growing community that I am so proud of. And I feel grateful to be among such amazing professionals making change in the world. And one last thing, I'm going to just share a little bit. I'm grateful to be here for the first time on air without wearing a head covering, because as some of you know, I've been recovering from breast cancer, and it gets a little hot with those things on your head. I got tired of wearing those, so today is my unveiling, and I have appreciated all of the support in that. So life transitions and challenges, we keep going at them and through them, and getting the best help that we can possible. And this is a part of all of that in the world of divorce. So I hear, Rosalind, we've got someone asking for your information again, childcentereddivorce.com. Thank you, Lisa Louie, for asking that. Tracy's information, and Sharon, and Rosalind is all on here. And if you would, Marcella, could you put up the DivorceTown information as well? And thank you, Erica. That's very kind.
Can I add, Lisa?
Yes.
I have a free ebook on the homepage of childcentereddivorce.com on post-divorce parenting success strategies for getting it right. So anyone can pick that up at childcentereddivorce.com.
Excellent, excellent. And Tracy, I know that you also have a nice booklet that you and Andrew have put together. I don't know if you have a PDF version of that, but
well, I think on the blog section of our website, there's an article that I wrote about talking to children about divorce. Whoops, am I still with you?
Yes, you are, but we're having some technical difficulties here.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on.
And I also wrote a book for young children between 4 and 7 about divorce called My Family is Changing. You can buy that on Amazon also.
Oh, wonderful. I saw that. Yes, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Great article. I mean, great book, children's book. We have a question from here. Yes.
Oh,
Sharon.
I was just going to share my 2 books as
Oh,
well.
please do. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I have a Children and Divorce PDF that's free. I'm happy to email it to anyone who connects with me on my website. And it's a parenting tips for children in different age ranges and what you can do to help them cope and adjust. And then on Amazon, there is a children's coloring journal book for no judgment, just love. A place where you can color and help your children understand how to judge less themselves and others and bring more love in the world. And there's no judgment for how you color because there's a left-hand version and a right-hand version.
That's great. As a lefty, I really appreciate that. You too, Rose. Wow. Well, since we're giving all these wonderful resources, I will tell you that at DivorceMoneyMatters.com, there is a free divorce financial fitness kit. It includes spreadsheets with all the documents you need to gather, 50 must-ask questions if you are hiring an attorney, and also an ebook to help you navigate through divorce. And at DivorceTownUSA.com, we have a divorce roadmap and a navigational guide to getting through divorce. So lots and lots of resources out here. Let's see, we do have a question from one of the folks on the call here. How do you support teens with a narcissistic father who is in criticism toward them? Do you push contact even though they do not want it? Tracy, would you like to say something?
I can give a stab at that. So yes, I made the point in my portion of our presentation that it's important for kids to have a relationship with both of their parents. There are, of course, exceptions when a parent is abusive or their mental health is impaired to the point that it's harmful to children. And in cases of true narcissistic personality, that can be the case. I want to be careful, though, and say parents with problematic qualities are still able to be important parts of their children's lives. Otherwise, we're all doomed, frankly. So we're going to have weaknesses and problems. But in this case, if your teen really doesn't want to be with that parent, I can't say for sure what to do because, of course, I don't know all of the details of this situation. But I would say it's important to empathize and validate their concerns without adding your own point of view. So that might look like, again, I can see why you felt hurt and angry about that, but avoiding, oh yeah, he did the same thing to me, avoiding maybe you don't want to go anymore, really trying to stay neutral and just support that their experience matters to you and you care about it. And as far as whether or not to push them to go, I feel like I can't answer it not knowing the details. There are times when it's right for teenagers to make their own choice about that, and you might have to handle that through legal steps. Maybe even ideally, you can engage in co-parenting work. We do a ton of that in my practice, where even sometimes situations that are very conflictual, sometimes it's possible to come to new agreements about how to handle things. So sorry to not fully answer your question. It depends on whether or not you should push them to keep going, but there are times when teenagers do need to make their own choice about that, especially if the relationship's really an unhealthy one.
Sharon, you want to add something?
I would love to add something because I concur with everything that Tracy said. And I think this viewer has the benefit of 3 wonderful professionals that can help her or him, I'm not sure which one, work through this. But my offering is this. Sometimes when we label people, we forget that they're well-rounded with a whole lot of other qualities. And whereas I agree with Tracy that if it is dangerous emotionally or physically for your teen, and your teen is expressing they don't want to go, that you get to decide whether that's appropriate, talking with your attorneys and your counselors and decide. But what I did, because I was raising teens at the same time as I was going through a divorce, is I wrote an article, and it might be on DivorceTown, is I am grateful for the narcissist in my life. And what I was able to do was to uncover, because remember, we only have control of our own thoughts and our own perspectives. I was able to uncover that I was in this relationship. What did his behavior help me learn about myself? And once I uncovered that, I was able to have conversation with my teen who did not want to go see her dad without identifying her dad, but just talk about behaviors that I recognized if someone was giving to me in narcissistic ways, how I dealt with it for me. And I found that to be at least successful with my daughter.
Thank you for sharing that personally as well as professionally. That's very helpful. And you can find articles from all of these lovely ladies at DivorceTownUSA.com, as well as many other experienced professionals. So please avail yourself to any and all of that. It's free. It's waiting for you to help you. And we hope that you have gained some valuable information here today. The woman who wrote that said thank you very much for that insight. Rosalind, did you have anything you wanted to add to that as well?
Well, I think they covered that very well because, as Tracy said, without knowing specific details, it's hard to make direct decisions about what you should or shouldn't do. But I think the underlying information was really valid, and we know our child better than anyone else. So we have to trust our gut on how we know our child, and then be able to validate their feelings, and then take it from there and make a decision and reach out for help with the specifics of the situation.
Very good. Yeah, and I would also say that, not pushing your children into something that they don't want, while also not allowing them to manipulate you to do things because they don't feel like it. Children are very good at working one parent against the other sometimes. So recognizing really what's going on and setting firm boundaries with yourself and for your children, and really just recognizing where am I in this situation, and every situation is going to be different. So reaching out to the professionals to help you decide that, your coaches, your therapist, and your attorney can go a long way to deciding the correct action. So Marcella, you have reappeared. This is Marcella. I'm sorry, did not introduce Marcella in the beginning, and then it was my error, but she is my assistant, and I couldn't do all this beautiful work that I do without Marcella. She is the best. So I appreciate you always, Marcella, and thank you for handling everything in the background here. You are amazing, and I love you. And I have love for all of you ladies as well. And so if we have no further questions, yes. Oh, you're hang on, Marcella. We can't hear you.
So I appeared for a reason. There's one more question.
Okay, I couldn't see it in the chat.
I prefer to be off camera. So we have one more question. It says, we are well into our divorce, approaching mediation. Would looking into the upside down process still be applicable?
Okay, yeah, thank you for asking. Yes, if your parenting plan is not complete, there are elements that you are still trying to decide, then absolutely we can take what you've already done successfully in your parenting plan and continue that process with you. Our process also includes just follow-up co-parenting check-ins even when you're finished with the divorce, because obstacles always come up, to make sure you stay on a healthy and constructive path. Mediation can be very helpful, but what happens in mediation typically is you sit in two different rooms and an attorney walks back and forth between you. And I prefer you to be in the same room where we can look at what are the values and fears that are behind these differences you're having on parenting, and how are you going to talk to each other about it and craft an agreement out of it. So it's possible that we could have something to offer even if you're partway through your process. Very
good. And I just want to add one thing about that mediation process. you most likely will be caucused in separate rooms. You may or may not have attorneys present in those separate rooms, depending on how you've decided whether you're self-mediating or court-mandated. A typical court-mandated mediation, your attorneys will be in your separate rooms with you, and the mediator will walk back and forth. If you're self-mediating, then you may be in the room together from the start. Quite a different flavor, but I just wanted to throw that out there for clarification. And that person says thank you. So very good, very good. So Marcella, any further questions here? If not, we will say goodbye to everyone and thank you for attending. And to all of those who will be listening later, we hope you enjoy this information and reach out for help. That's what we're here for.
Just one more note for everyone too. There is a support group available through Meetup, the Divorce Help and Hope Support Group. Also, this is the first of monthly webinars that we'll be holding every month this year. So stay tuned, more information will be coming, themes will be changing, presenters, but the resources will remain the same.
And you can always find out about all of the things that we're doing, Meetup, support groups, webinars for the public, and professional networking events for others in the divorce world, helping the public at DivorceTownUSA.com under our events section. And we look forward to seeing you somewhere along the way. Thank you for attending.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.